Good morning, y'all. How are you today? Everybody good? Coffee Conversations with Greg J is on. Good morning, Thursday morning. Uh, you know, it's December 3rd, last month of the year. And what a year it has been. And we're still in the midst of it, aren't we? But everything will be all right. Everything will be all right. Got more compelling conversation for you today. Just things for you to contemplate while we are going through it all. And yeah, just wanting to deal with it. You know what I'm saying? Just wanting to be a part of it. Just wanting to um, get through it successfully. Help my community get through it successfully. Inspire and inform my community to get through it. And we just thank you so much for tuning in to Coffee Conversations with Greg J. Let me just adjust my seat here and then get to these headlines so that we can begin the conversation, y'all. Yeah, yes. How's your day been going? How's your week? How's your life? COVID-19. You know, I just hope we like to meditate and just think about, what we've been through this year. So many lives have been lost. So many situations have happened. Our minds are almost overwhelmed with such craziness that's going on in this here world, isn't it? It's something. But hey, we're gonna get through it. We're gonna win. We're gonna be all about it. We're going to be living and loving and getting through this time. Okay. I'm trying to get my guest in order here. So if y'all would just bear with me here for just a hot second, let me just make sure that they are able to get into our broadcast so we can begin this compelling conversation that we are going to have this morning. Really excited about this morning. Got a young activist, the new generation, this generation of civil and human rights leaders, right? You like that? Hustle Juice. Columbusong Coffee Company. ColumbusongCoffeeCompany.com. You'll be hearing more about that really, really soon. Let me just see. I'm going to send you, Brother Sean, the way to get in once again, and hopefully you can, make it so. And yeah, yes. Technology, y'all. It's all good. Giving you all a chance to load up and come in as well. Thank you so much for listening. Like my buddy says, it ain't easy. So this is what we're doing here. All right, young man, you should have it. And I have sent it to you twice. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna send him to him. I'm sorry for the delay, y'all, but we're getting there. Hold on for a minute. Technology, I suppose. And yeah. Yep. Y'all hear about Anthony Davis for the Lakers? Y'all Laker fans out there? You like that? Man, they might be winning for a minute, right? I love it. I love it if you love it. Let me see if he can just All right. Hey, let's read the headlines right now. VP elect Kamala Harris has picked a veteran political strategist, Tina Flournoy, as her chief of staff. And that's really, really big. Flournoy is, a veteran political strategist in the Democratic Party. She served working with the Clintons, both Clintons, post presidency as their chief of staff and other areas, right? So this is a good pick for Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris picked veteran political strategist Tina Flournoy as her chief of staff. Sad news in the sports world. Olympic hero Rafer Johnson passed away at age 86. He was at one time considered the world's greatest athlete. If you're from my generation, you know about Rafer Johnson on the cover of the box of Wheaties and covers of Sports Illustrated, a decathlon guy. He was a beast, in his day. COVID-19 deaths topped 3,100 in one day on yesterday. 100,000 hospitalizations. Los Angeles is going into another lockdown right now, and companies are getting more closer to a vaccine. And as we go all across the country, we see, time and time again, more news about this here. Pandemic and how it is affecting cities, states. They said that if you traveled at all or gathered at all for Thanksgiving, assume that you are infected. That's what they're saying. There's a lot going on out there. And as these companies get closer to a vaccine, that's what they keep announcing. I know that a lot of us are not trusting the vaccine. And one thing that we're committed to here at Coffee Conversations with Greg J is to endeavor to keep informing, tapping into people who are experts in this whole thing and giving us the proper information so that we can make the proper decisions about ourselves. I mean, I don't know about the vaccine. It's kind of a scary notion to me, the stage that we're in, and my trust factor is not very strong when it comes to this area and the government. And I know that there are thousands, hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of Black folk who probably right on my tip. So, but I also think that we should be endeavoring to get the proper information, right, to make sure that we're making the right decisions as we move towards recovery. So today, we got our special guest today, and I'm really excited about this because this is a young man who has a lot of different advocacies, and I just am really excited about him, and I've been watching him move. And so we just have a conversation with him today about the current state of social justice. Been a heck of a year. And he's got a lot to say. One thing he did is, as I think it was Pfizer, one of those big companies was announcing, their success rate with this COVID-19. They're conducting clinical trials and all that. And so he wrote a letter to the folks and said, okay, how diverse is your pool of people that you're expressing this clinical trial with? Is there enough Black people to properly represent how it would affect us? That's a great question, right? And so he got the answer from one of them. I think we reported on that on Tuesday, but let's bring him on in, ladies and gentlemen. He's a couple generations behind me, but we're from the same hometown. And if you really notice about Coffee Conversations, we've had a few homies on here, just who happened. We're all from San Diego. We've gone on to do great things, and it's always a joy to see success stories coming out of our neighborhood. And so, ladies and gentlemen, here he is. Reverend Shane Harris is with us this morning. Good morning, sir.
Man, good morning. It's good to be with you, Greg, Jay, and thank you so much for having me here on Coffee Conversations. It's good to be live with the Coffee Conversations crew in LA.
Right. That's right, sir. That's right. Hey, before we get into our talk today, I was reading your bio yesterday, and so you came out of Bethel Baptist Church.
I did. I was ordained, actually ordained by Dr. John Ringgold. the senior pastor, longtime senior pastor of Bethel Baptist Church, when I was licensed at Bethel Baptist Church. In the Baptist Church, you go through licensing and ordination. And so I went through both of those under Dr. Ringgold's leadership. He's a great man, just all around the world, well known. And I was honored to be, one of the young people to grow up under his leadership and be able to be trained by him. So,
well, let me just say this to you. I was born and raised, baptized in Bethel Baptist Church under Dr. Charles Hampton, who was my pastor.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And I don't know. I'm going to take this moment to see. Do you remember Catherine Thomas?
I don't remember Catherine Thomas.
Okay. How about Fonzie Thomas?
Fonzie Thomas sounds familiar.
That's my grandfather. Do you remember Willie and Betty Johnson, Deacon Johnson?
Yes, I do.
Those are my parents.
Oh, wow.
Yes, brother. I was born and raised there, and we go way back. There's still some folks up in there, but yes, that's my home church when it was on 29th and Clay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dr. Ringgold and Dr. Hampton. Mm-hmm. I mean, Dr. Hampton was a great orator, powerful orator.
Yeah.
And, Dr. Hampton was partially helping to host Dr. King when Dr. King came into town at the Calvary Baptist Church where he spoke. Dr. Hampton was there and welcomed him. So these guys have a long-standing history in the community, as you know, and I have a lot of respect for the history and the legacy of the Bethel Baptist Church.
Well, yeah. When I met you a couple of years ago, I did realize that. I did yesterday. I was looking at your bio. I was like, what? All right. Yeah. There you go. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, Reverend Harris. So listen, I saw your letter. I heard about it from the California Black Media Network. You sent the letter to the big pharma to find out, how many of the folks are included in your clinical trials. What spurred you to do that? And were you surprised to even get an answer?
Well, I was surprised to get an answer because, there is a long history that I know about regarding vaccines and the Black community particularly. The polio vaccine with the polio virus in 1955 and what happened to Black men in Alabama, all the way to Tuskegee University, and just the really kind of test using our community kind of as a run through or a test, or to see experiment, to see basically how things respond to things. And so the medical history with the Black community is not a good history. Mm-hmm. And so the biopharmaceutical companies rarely respond to our community or too much of anybody. I mean, everybody knows that the biopharmaceutical community doesn't really respond to much of anybody. There's not a lot of accountability with the biopharmaceutical companies. And that was really what ultimately made me reach out to Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Johnson & Johnson, these three major international companies, biopharmaceutical companies that are providing vaccine trials right now. And anybody who understands, the trials are coming before the vaccines. It is the experimenting period, or the experiment, period to really see how the vaccine will work and what the response could be. Mm-hmm. And so we wanted to know how many African Americans, Latinos, whites, and so on and so forth, Asian Americans have participated in these trials, because we need to know what the response is from our community to these trials. Mm-hmm. If they're being overrepresented in being experimented on, or they're underrepresented, or they're just right. And then we need to know, okay, if this is where the numbers are, for example, if 2% of African Americans in San Diego or 5% of Black Americans in Los Angeles have gotten the vaccine trials, then we need to know that, so that we know when the vaccines come, how much more work we have to do on dealing with the mistrust pertaining to the vaccines. And I'm going to tell you, I've heard from a lot of people around the country on, not trusting this vaccine that they've been working so quickly on. And there's
Guilty.
a lot of trust and concern with that.
Right. Yeah, I'm not trusting the situation either right now. I mean, the government is in such a topsy-turvy, vibe right now. I don't know, I don't know what to even think. Are they going to make us take this vaccine? And if so, what's in it? There's also a lot of conspiracies out there, theories that say, they're trying to implant trackers inside of us.
Yeah.
I heard one person say if we refuse to take the vaccine, they're going to round those people up and put them in some sort of concentration camp. It's like a lot of talk is going on around the community, and certainly we want to calm the fears of our community and give them the proper information so they can make the right decisions. Now, what was the answer of the AstraZeneca folks and the Pfizers and them? What did they say to you?
So we issued a letter a few weeks ago to all of these companies asking them for a race and ethnicity breakdown of who's been participating in the vaccine trials in the San Diego County region. And the reason why I wanted to know that was because, we're based in San Diego, but we're a national organization. But we want to make sure that in the San Diego region, every region's different and responses are different in every region. So we wanted to know in the San Diego County region, what has been the response? What is the breakdown of who you've been utilizing in our communities? And so there was one response from Pfizer, the CEO of Pfizer, Mr. Albert Bourla. They responded, and their response basically was that here's the national numbers. I believe 30% of African Americans nationally are participating in the vaccine trials that are taking place with Pfizer. But we can't give you the local numbers or the regional numbers because it really is irrelevant. That is ultimately what they said, that it's really irrelevant. And that it will offset the national numbers. Now, here's the thing that we need to understand about this, Greg, is that if we don't get the regional numbers, San Diego, Los Angeles, Sacramento, Washington, D.C., New York, if we don't get the regional numbers, then we do not know in each region, which every region has a different case rate of COVID, every region has a different race and ethnicity population, and every region has different responses to the vaccine trials. If we don't get a response to figure out geographically what's the breakdown of who's participating in these trials, then, Greg, we don't know how to fight to build that trust and try to bring people together. We don't know how much work we have to do. And I'm a data person. You can't get this work done without data. You have to understand this is where we are, this is where we need to be, and this is what we need to do to get there.
Now, if we, all right, so then what, I guess how I'm trying to frame how I'm trying to want to say this. So why, if we know what's happening I guess the data does help, and if it's hard to get that information from the powers that be, why can't we just move forward anyway based on what we do know? What do we know in terms of infection rates, in the community? What do we know in terms of people's mistrust? I mean, generally speaking, if I were to, without even putting a formal, survey out there, I would say that by and large, most Black folks ain't trusting this vaccine.
No, there's great mistrust with the African American community across the country, which is one of the concerns we have at the People's Alliance for Justice, is that there is a lot of mistrust and concern pertaining to how African Americans will respond to this vaccine when it arrives. And we're also concerned, Greg, about the mandates that could come connected to the vaccine. For example, in order to travel, will you have to take the vaccine? In order to, do this or do that, what will you have to do for, to be able to do whatever you do in your life. And I think that is most concerning is how do they set up these mandates? So that's going to be the next step with the federal government. And we're looking to I can't give you this because we are going to be announcing on the 16th. But we are going to be very vibrant in Washington, D.C. And one of the things that we're going to do is make sure that the Biden administration understands the mandates that you put in place have racial and ethnicity implications on them. And we have to be careful on how we respond to these communities, not only empowering them to take the vaccine, but we need to be careful in how we mandate them to take the vaccine and whether we shove this down the throat of the Black community or whether we sort of have a conversation. And I think that the medical community and the biopharmaceutical community owe the Black community a conversation on the history of the mistrust and how to get through that.
It's interesting because that's a tall order. I mean, how do they explain the Tuskegee experiment? How do they explain time and time again, how they have experimented? How do they explain the concepts of eugenics? I mean, the history is rife as you just move through it. And I don't think anybody, just getting up there and saying, I'm sorry, doesn't cut it because You know what, even though you apologize, I might accept your apologies, but doggone it, I sure don't trust you sticking a needle in my arm.
That's 400 years for Black people, Greg.
Right.
And so the thing is that essentially the medical community has not even apologized for that history. The biopharmaceutical companies have not even apologized. And so essentially that would be the first step is take responsibility, apologize, acknowledge what you did, and then let's talk about how to move forward and what that looks like. And you need to get input from these communities. You need to hear from them. And in my county here in San Diego, one of the things I've been pushing county officials on and the county supervisors is that don't shove this down the Black community's throat. Have a conversation, hear from the community. That's why we will be holding a town hall with a virtual event with Dr. Wilma Wooten, the county's public health officer, and the public health department in just a few weeks, because we want to make sure that they understand that you cannot shove this down the throat of the Black community. You can't tell them, take the vaccine. You need to get input from the Black community. And that's how you begin to have conversations about the vaccine coming in.
Yeah. I just hope that they have the foresight to go ahead and do that. There's probably people up there that say, hey, we don't care about what you think. We're just going to do it. Yeah. Very interesting stuff. And we got a long way to go on this, but in the meantime, they're pushing fast and furious to get this out on the street, and available to, the citizens of the United States. And I guess what I hear in the mainstream news is there seems to be this question of who gets the vaccine first. Why does that matter?
That matters because, again, here you go with the disproportionality of African Americans across America. And in our state, you have African Americans and Latinos greatly leading positive cases. We've been disproportionately affected by COVID-19 in every possible way, from the health side to the economic side. And the reality is that where you put vaccines need to speak to that disproportionality. But again, it's a complex issue, right? Because where you put the vaccine, that community, there's the mistrust. And so do you put the vaccine in the community that is automatically going to be like, no, I'm not, I don't want anything to do with it? It's going to be a struggle. But yes, there needs to be a responsibility from our government, not just for the vaccine, but for where grants and funding will go. We know the Biden administration is looking probably to funnel some more money into small businesses. That money needs to go in the Black community. And so across the line, the Black community, the Latino community, these communities have been hit the hardest around the country. But the Black community has led nationally in numbers, disproportionately in numbers of positive cases. And the Black community will need to be supported by the federal government in every way, not just in the vaccine way, but across the line.
Yeah, very interesting stuff. And, we're going to continue this dialogue here on Coffee Conversations, forming, we got a lot of friends out there in the medical community. We want to hear the doctors' perspectives, people like yourself want to hear your perspective. We want to keep going all up and down the state and even across the country, with political leaders and everything. We really want to wrap our arms around this whole thing. Do you think that we will have COVID-19 under control by summer 2021?
I'm cautioned to say yes, because there's so much of this is depicted upon how the vaccine rolls out. And I think that's why, I'm issuing a letter to President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris, both of who I know. And our office is going to be asking, the administration to look at concrete solutions and strategies on really how to roll this out, right? Because you can roll it out and you can create mandates. The mistrust is still there. And again, you can't make people take the vaccine. So if you have a lot of mistrust to the vaccine, mind you, it's not just Black folks. It's white folks. It's Latino folks. There's lots of people who do not trust the vaccine, partially because they feel it's been politicized by both sides of the political table. And, I'm going to tell you, Greg, one of the things that I have seen, and of course, the president President Trump is on his way out. But here's the reality. Even if he's gone, there is a great mistrust in how this disease has been politicized. This is not a political issue. We have people dying. We have people suffering economically and deprived. People lost their jobs. This is not political. But both sides of the table have used this moment to argue political points back and forth on strategy of the campaign and the election. And it's time for America to move beyond the campaign into how to heal this country. And it's not just by shoving a vaccine down people's throat. There's going to be a lot of trust that's going to need to be done to build the bridges and to ultimately build the path forward for America. So I'm cautioned to say 2021, summer 2021. We hope so. And I have every bit of faith in America that we will rise. But I think that there's going to need to be a lot of work done to nail this down by summer 2021 strategically, for people to feel safe, for our seniors to feel safe, and all those kind of things.
All right. Yeah, that's a I want it to be over just not number one, just because I'm tired of all this mess, but we're trying to organize some trips to Africa too, with Coffee Conversations and Afro Pop Radio. And we're already talking to our folks over in Africa, preparing the way.
Man, I'd love to come. I'd love to come with you.
Yes, let's do it. Oh man, that would be awesome. And we just try to prepare the way, but some things we don't know what to do because the COVID-19 situations has got us all tripped up there. There's Patrice Harris Simmons. She's checking in with us. She's saying they could be inserting the microchip in us with this mandatory vaccine all over the world. And I've heard that many, many times. What do you say to these conspiracy theories and whatnot? Look, she also says they haven't discovered a cure for cancer and other diseases, but they produced a vaccine in less than a year. And I'm going to piggyback on that one, Patrice. That man Trump had the vaccine and a bunch of his people, and less than a week later was out there, skinning and grinning. I was like, wow. So what's really going on? What do you say there, Reverend Harris, about these so-called conspiracy theories?
Well, I think that these conspiracy theories are some of them are reasonable thoughts to have. I just want to caution us to be strategic about being data driven and there we have some good doctors in our community. We have some great Black doctors around the country who are with some of the concerns of those conspiracy theories. But I think that ultimately we have to be strategic about how we approach, this vaccine. I think that some of those points are raised are true points, are good points, and I think that we need to be very careful in how this vaccine's rolled out and how we respond, and I think that community organizations should be careful. One of the things we're doing at the PAJ is we're being data driven. We're pushing for data. We want to break down. We want race and ethnicity. We want to know. But Greg, there's some of our community-based organizations that are just hopping on the money that's being delivered and handed out to promote a vaccine that they don't have enough information about, and that's concerning. Yeah.
We've been talking about that here at our Dream Creator Studios. Is like how to, if we become a point of information for the community, how we have to be very, very careful with what we share with the people and how we put it out there. And you're absolutely right. It's a lot of the organizations out there, they're just following the money and, and not really caring, I guess, or taking the doing the work that is required to be fully informed before they pass on information to the people. But, it brings me to another point, and just even the essence of our conversation on today. And I look at you and I see, a new generation of activists, a new generation of civil and human rights leader. And although I did meet you at my appreciation event after I left the radio station here in Los Angeles, and it was a joy to meet another homie from San Diego. That's always, I always love that. I get a kick out of it. But I know that this year, starting with Minneapolis, you have been, on the fight, for social justice and really being on the front lines as we, fight this the systemic racism, the police murders, and all of these things that have happened, particularly here in 2020. And you're that new generation, right? So what do you see? Okay, if you say your generation is probably looking to say, okay, that doesn't work, we're going to try something new. What is your assessment of our movement? Why have we gotten complacent and, in a lot of cases, to your point, greedy? And then just kind of give us what you have seen thus far since March? What was that we were out there in Minneapolis? Yeah. So what have you seen thus far?
I was in Minneapolis in May. Actually, a few days after George Floyd was killed. But since March, the pandemic has been going on now for well over 9 months. I can't believe that we're in our 9th month of COVID. So this has been quite a year from the pandemic, the disease, the outbreak, and then the racial injustice that finally got highlighted in a way that, I'm going to tell you, I've never seen Black people, white people, brown people, all kinds of colors of skin march the way that they did this year. Historically, I talk, I've hung around, legends, stakeholders in our community who are part of a very large part of our history. And they were telling me, I've never seen anything like this. So I think that, this year has been a critical year for us as Black folks. And I think it's been a critical year for America. But it's also been the year that I hope America took a look at itself in the mirror and really, really, really looked at itself. America wasn't prepared for COVID-19. America wasn't prepared for what to do in regard to the racial injustice. You have both sides of the political parties saying, no comment at the beginning of George Floyd. Many of them hadn't said anything until the protests began to spill into their local communities and congressional districts and all that. and this is ultimately, I think, what I saw this year. But when I got in Minneapolis and I started to get on the ground, I met with activists. I talked to them about AB 392 and what we did here after Stephon Clark in getting AB 392 passed in the state of California, that Dr. Weber's bill that created a threshold for use of excessive force. And so I talked about, some of those policies and how they can take their pain and channel it into power, how they can take their demonstration and channel it into legislation. And so we began at that point to have those conversations. And now it's good to see that some of those activists in the state of Minnesota benefited from some of those conversations that I was glad to help come and lead. They asked me to come in, some of them, and I came in and had great conversations, helped to lead several rallies and demonstrations. I can't even count in my head. Spoke on the freeway. There's this historic photo of me standing there speaking to, I think it was like 13,000 people on the freeway there in Minneapolis as we marched for justice for George Floyd. And this was after the first cop was indicted, but the rest of them hadn't been. So this movement really has been strong. And then, finally, the PAJ, the People's Alliance for Justice, was able to also give a contribution to the mother of George Floyd's child, George Floyd's daughter, Gianna. We were able to give a contribution to her, and it goes toward the efforts of organizing a foundation. So much, I think, it was an honor for me to be a part of this movement and be one of the leaders, one of the many leaders to rise up at this time. But I think that this ultimately was a test for America.
Yeah, indeed, man. I mean, it's been really, really something. I know May 31st, I went out here in Long Beach where Coffee Conversations originates, our beachcityradio.com, all that. We're based out of Long Beach, but we are global. But I went out took my cameras out onto the protest road, and I was just amazed at I knew it, but I didn't know it till I got out there, if that makes sense. It just hit me like a ton of bricks just looking around. I said, oh man, these are my kids out there. These are my daughters and my sons and my grandchildren, my nieces and nephews, meaning, the age group, right? And then also too, the diversity of the whole movement of people against police violence, and it was really, really something to watch. The Long Beach is a very artistic town, so a lot of the the businesses boarded up their businesses, but people came along and painted, beautiful tributes to George Floyd, to Black Lives Matter, to peace and unity in the community. It was really, really something to witness. And so now we're at a point now where we want to see, okay, what was real and what was not. And I guess the people spoke in election time. Mm-hmm. And now we look forward to some sort of great political change. But let me ask you this, Reverend Harris. I think that we can change all the rules and we can, put the people who we like in office and everything. But how do we begin to change the hearts of men and women that harbor so much hatred to the degree that they want to kill someone because of the color of their skin?
Well, let me say this. I've come down to I've come down to this analysis now. So I'm not going to wait till I turn till I turn 30, 40, 50 to start realizing this. The power is in us. Mm-hmm. It is not in a political party. It is not in the Democrats. It is not in the Republicans. It is not in the president. The power is in us. Local leadership matters. And strategy, building wealth, equity. We need to increase Black home ownership. We need to put our focus back on equity. We need to put our focus on what Dr. King was just before his death, when he went to Memphis, Tennessee was to begin a national poor people's campaign. We need to get to equity. The focus should not be as high on political parties or this particular elected official versus this one. Because I'm going to tell you, at the end of the day, Greg, all of them only move when we move.
That's right.
We make a move. And I think that ultimately what we need to do is we need to build the capital, the wealth, and the established structure of where we want to go as a people. Now, yeah, we can elect leaders. We can elect leaders from our community, but that's part of the building that capital, that wealth, that strategy. We need to put our own leaders with funding and back them with support so that they don't have to sell out to the big corporations or to big pharma or to Wall Street, but they can stand on their own 2 feet, or to the Republicans or the Democrats, to labor unions. You don't want people who are bought into establishments. You want people who are freely led by the interest of their community. And I think that ultimately needs to be where we need to go. We need to move a political kind of movement and a new social kind of entrepreneurship kind of movement that establishes our own infrastructure, our own backing, and our own strategy, so that nobody can call the shot and say, I'm going to quiet this person down, I'm going to take this person down, I'm going to take that person down. And that's the direction I believe we need to go, Greg, is we need to move our community forward. We need to build our own financial base and our own infrastructure so we don't have to depend on folks who only show up to tell us what to do, to give us the money and tell us, you're going to do this because I gave this to you. Mm-hmm. No, we need to own us and our platform.
Yeah, I really agree with that 100%. And I 2 points I'd like to make here is, after, 20 plus years of working at a station owned by Stevie Wonder and being on the ground, so many movements in the community, just being a man of the community, that's what I'm about. I just have always come to the realization that,
you're the voice of LA.
It always comes down to, it always is about the people, like no matter what. And this is what I have learned, in my work and my boots on the ground out in the community. It is always about the people. And I think too, 2020 has given us a propitious opportunity to self-inventory, because and self-correct as a people, because I think that we probably have gone forth working so hard to try to be like the power structure and accepted by the power structure, and even to the degree in some cases people
if I could hit get in right there, while they're trying to be like us. They're trying to be like us and we trying to be like them.
What's right.
Wrong with that picture?
Man, there's something psychologically wrong there. That's a sickness. Just really something, how now we just are waking up to say, okay, we have to really begin to build our own, and this is a position of strength. I don't think it's to exclude anybody. It's just that when we work on our inner core, we can have a stronger voice at the global table.
Yeah.
Because, and so I think this is very important. We've been a consumer based demographic for too long.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the song by James Brown is my theme song. I don't want nobody to give me nothing. Just open up the door.
I don't want nobody give me nothing.
Come on now.
Open up the door.
Yes.
I'll give myself.
Yes, that's my theme song right now, y'all. Yeah, get it. Okay, so now is it safe to can you share your experiences with the getting ill during the time of 2020?
Yeah.
And talk a little bit about that if you feel comfortable doing so, and share with the people and encourage them how to be safe.
So I came back from Minneapolis and I arrived back in San Diego. I had a big press conference here. So I was coming from doing stuff in Minneapolis, got here, had a huge press conference. What I did do when I hit the ground, when I got off the plane, I went and got tested because I'd been traveling. I wasn't sick at the time. I had no symptoms of anything, but went to get tested. Well, when I got over to the press conference, it was like that day, it was like had to have been about 90 degrees. And I'm standing there with several elected leaders from around the region, with community leaders, with regional based civil rights organizations. And we were standing in front of a burned building, Black owned business, and also a bank that was burned down because of the looting and rioting that was taking place in response to George Floyd. And so I was standing there, and as I was speaking, Greg, I got to the end of the press conference. It was about 12 speakers. It was live everywhere. I got to the end of the press conference, and I started feeling this veil of heat just fall over my body. I mean, it just hit me. Like I had never felt anything like this before. And my head started hurting. I got a headache. I got a huge heat wave across my body. And then it just began. It progressed and progressed all throughout that day. I said, I got to get out of here. My assistant got me some water. I hit the road. I left. I went straight to lay down. And the next day, which was less than 48 hours, I got a call from the doctor, from my doctor, saying that I tested positive for COVID-19. And at that moment, because I was already experiencing the symptoms, and mind you, I'm a young body with potentially not a whole lot of pre-existing conditions that I know of. And this would have tested all of that. But the response is different for everyone. But I got fevers. I got high fever. I'm talking 103, 104. I had chills. I couldn't eat. I had no taste or smell. I went through my fair share of headaches. And so all of this began just progressively. It just progressed. Well, then what happened was I began to go through some serious, falling asleep on a regular basis, just literally fatigued on a regular, like just constantly getting fatigued. I couldn't do anything. And so when I got the call that I got COVID, I had to check myself, Greg, because at first I said I shouldn't have went to lead this, help lead the movement in Minneapolis. I should have stayed home. I should have stayed home all through the pandemic because I've been doing frontline work. I'm talking, we have a program at the People's Alliance for Justice in San Diego. We've been serving seniors. We served over 1,500 seniors across the county with groceries, dropping them off at their door, from groceries to home essentials. We've been doing all of these different things throughout the pandemic. And every day I had been active throughout the pandemic, but I'm certain that I got COVID in Minneapolis. People were rarely wearing masks. People were spitting all over the place, yelling, screaming. It was, and none of us really cared. We forgot that COVID was there because we were frustrated and angry. And ultimately, I had to check myself, Greg, because when they told me I got COVID, I had to think about, no, I don't regret this, because I was willing to put my own body on the line, my own health on the line, to stand up for equality and justice, to stand up for my fellow brother George Floyd, to stand up for every person who has been killed by police. And so, although it was challenging, and I went through all of what I talked about, then the body pain started. I had never felt anything like this, Greg. I'm talking pains in my legs, pains in my arms, very rigorous pains. And that was when I knew that this is not your regular flu.
Right.
And that we should take it seriously. Even if we are out protesting or doing whatever we do, We need to take this seriously. This is not a joke.
That's an important a point right there, because when we first started this out, a lot of people were saying, "Okay, this is a white man's disease," and somebody told me the other day they felt the same way still, but yet and still people are, like yourself. I mean, all of a sudden, you come down with these symptoms, and then you're very, very ill. There's also a thing I like to point out. I keep hearing that younger people. The older people are more susceptible. People in my age group are more susceptible to the illness. But yet I keep seeing, people of all ages, your generation included, getting the disease, and some are, recovering and back in the game like you, and then some are not. I've got a few. I got a little list. I'm sure everybody out here watching this broadcast probably has a list by now of folks who have passed away from the pandemic disease. So this is important information. You would encourage then, Reverend Harris, that people wear the mask and
wear the mask. And look, we've had a very balanced approach to this disease. Some would argue that I have some conspiracy theories, but at the end of the day, we do need to think smart. And we do need to respond strategically. And so I encourage you, wear the mask, social distance. I did not discourage people from gathering on Thanksgiving. That's baloney. And here's why. Because the governor and everyone else, the governors across the country and the council members and all the supervisors, the county supervisors who want to tell us, don't see your family, that they was lying, because they was all over their family's house eating grandma's turkey too.
That's the truth right there, brother.
So don't come telling me. So we did not discourage people from gathering. However, what we did was we encouraged people to gather strategically. So if it's just you, just your household, and maybe a little bit of a shared, household, everyone's coming together, wear your mask, social distance, and wash your hands. Use your sanitizer. We got to remember that part of this is going back to some essentials that we ought to have anyway. For example, we should have been washing our hands anyway, because there's all kinds of bacteria out there. That's not a conspiracy theory. I don't want nobody on your broadcast to come emailing me talking about you have a conspiracy theory. What are you talking about? No, we got to wash our hands. We should have been, distancing on certain levels. If someone's sick, they should stay home. So there's some basic essentials here that we just should do. But I'm not going to play into the hysteria, right? There's a balance to this. Let's take it serious. Let's not be hysterical. And we can deal with slowing the spread, preventing the spread, and ultimately paving a path forward that works for America, and ultimately paves a path forward that ends this virus. But we have to do the balanced work that is needed.
Yeah, true indeed. Let me get back to the issue of police violence. Now that we've seen everything that's happened in 2020, we've gone through the election and everything. So the question I want to ask you: so what? Defund the police?
No, so here's what I mean by no. The language, the term defund the police did not come from our community. That came from some folks that was coming in. And here's the thing, I'm all for white allies. I'm for our white brothers and sisters joining the movement and helping us. But we got to watch again, the hysteria. Don't hysteria our community. And here's the thing, defund the police is a poor term. It's a poor term. Let's start there. It's a poor term. And we need to be more strategic about the terms we use. Terms say something. Terms say things. So the term is poor. The idea makes sense if you have a place to put the money. So have a strategy. If you're going to introduce to your local council, your local county supervisors, your local leaders, because that's who's making the decisions on the budgets for the year. It's an annual thing that happens. Check on when your budget hearings are and when they begin. Wherever you're watching from, check your budget hearings and look into, okay, I want a certain amount of this money to come out of the police department and go into resources and prevention services. I want it to go into community organizations. I want it to go over here, but have somewhere to ask for the circulation of the funding. Don't just say, take the money out of the police budget. Okay, where are you putting it? One of the things that we're suggesting, Greg, Jay, in the new year, the People's Alliance for Justice will be starting initiatives to take on asking for the Public Defender's Office to be provided more funding. Right now, in San Diego County and probably in Los Angeles and across the country, the reality is real. The reality is true. On the Public Defender's Office's funding is at least averages around $200,000 less than the DA's budget. So more money's put into prosecuting and less money's put into defense. So if we're going to build a movement on defunding the police, then have a place to put the money. Propose smart budget solutions to where to redirect some funds to go to. And then be able to be strategic about the terms you're using. I don't think defund the police is the right term.
Right. So we need to change the language and then identify places to replace, to move that money as opposed to just taking it away. Maybe put it into arts programs or other community, more parks and recs, stuff like that. Right.
Because and the term is poor, Greg, because you know this, you're a branding person. When you use certain terms, it takes out people who would join your cause. I had to think about when I was starting the People's Alliance for Justice, and Nick Cannon and others I was talking to who are a part of our organization said, Rev, we got to be strategic about branding. And so everything from how our logo is designed to how we brand the initiatives we take on, we have to be strategic about that, Greg. And so our community cannot play into the reactive measures that some of our allies are coming in, and they want to help, and we appreciate that. We welcome the help. We need the help. We need y'all to come stand with us. We need allyship. But what we don't need is hysteria. We need strategic quotes and strategic names to frame our movement around so that we can ultimately make the changes that we have been hurt by.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, suffice it to say, the work is not over. The struggle continues. Right. Victory is certain, that's for sure. And as my good friend Molly Bell always says, to God be the glory. And just, as you look forward and keep fighting the good fight, how can people get a hold of you there, Reverend Harris, to be kept up to date about your movement and maybe even join your movement? How do we get a hold of you?
So we definitely encourage people to join, donate. We need money. We need money. We can't do this movement without money. We are supported by the Bernie Sanders theology. That's how I roll this organization out. We started that way. We are supported by individuals. We're supported by attorneys. We're supported by law firms. We're supported in multiple different ways. But we really make every effort not to go after government money and not to go after corporate money that's going to tie our hands. So if you want to support, go to www.peoplesallianceforjustice.net. Right now, www.peoplesallianceforjustice.net. Make your donation now. You click on membership/donate, and you can make your donation there, or you can become a member. You have to wait for the donate sign to pop up. Sometimes it takes a little longer. Make your donation there. If you want to know how to if you want to get involved, all the information is also there about membership and what members essentially do. And people can reach us at 619-354-8051. That is our current headquarters number. Now,
One more time,
Greg,
619.
give this to you exclusively. On December 16th, I'm announcing that we are opening a headquarters in Washington, D.C.
Oh.
And I will be making a move to Washington, D.C. to do that and accomplish that goal. And there will be lots of work to do on the ground. So we definitely, welcome support. And the work will continue in California. We have appointed leaders who are a part of our network in California. We'll be rolling that out and announcing that. Some of those representatives are on our website. If you look for the representatives page on our website, you'll see who's representing LA, who's representing the different Sacramento. That work will continue in the California region. But now even more so, we will be able to do important work on the ground in Washington, D.C. to advocate for Californians, particularly African-American and minority Californians who feel left out of the DC circle. And we will make sure that the platform broadens and all the issues we're taking on, from foster care, disproportionality in the child welfare system, to equity within Black home ownership. All of these issues will be streamlined to the federal level, where we will work with Congress, we'll work with the Senate, and we'll work with the president-elect and the vice president-elect at that time, the president and the vice president, to do the important work for everyone who, particularly these folks around the country who have felt left out. So I definitely encourage you to go join us now. We will have a new headquarters number launching December 16th. And we will be in touch regarding some future things that are going to be taking place at the outset of next year. www.peoplesallianceforjustice.net. And then, Greg, I had some folks in my life. Regina Wilson, I saw her on here.
She's out there, yes.
They taught me how to promote, Greg. So if you want to go follow me right now on Instagram and Twitter at Shane Harris Now. Instagram and Twitter at Shane Harris Now. You can follow the People's Alliance for Justice on Facebook as well, and on Instagram at The People for Justice, on Twitter at PAJ Movement. So we're everywhere, and I'm everywhere. And so I look forward to working with everyone, anyone who wants to really make sure that our communities are heard.
All right, hit me with that phone number one more again there, my friend.
619
Yeah.
354 8051.
619 354
8051.
All right, y'all. That's in the chat. The website is in the chat. The social handles are in the chat. Check it out and support. I want to circle back. We've actually talked a little bit about conspiracy theories and everything. And my good friend Patrice Simmons was asking, she doesn't understand why, when we think out of the box, that it's a conspiracy. Conspiracies are logical thoughts, she says. It is very interesting. And I want to, it spurred a thought in my mind. I was part of a early morning talk show at the radio station that I worked at before I started my own communications empire. And, we used to always hear these personalities come on to be interviewed on this show. And some of the stuff that they were saying were outrageous. They even in the management meetings when we're talking about, did you hear what they were talking about? That's some bull crap. Just really unbelievable, conspiracies, right? But yeah. I have to tell you that in this day and time and time again, I have seen the stuff that we considered so crazy talk, 10 years ago, is happening right now.
Yeah.
It just really trips me out. The other thing is, a lot of the people that had the most compelling so-called conspiracy theories are dead.
Right.
Yeah. So they, that's,
Dr. Sebi is one of them,
Yeah, exactly.
And so,
Andre Eglerjon used to break down about the struggles that the dollar was going to have in the world monetary markets and all of that. And he was talking about, gold standards, and, he was predicting stuff like digital currency and all of that. And he He passed away kind of young, but the stuff that he was saying 10 years ago, I see it now. I'm like, wow, he said that. It's very interesting stuff. Yeah. All right, y'all. There we have it. Coffee Conversations with Greg J, Reverend Shane Harris.
I just posted our website in the chat, or I think it might be in the private chat, because I don't think I could post in the public chat.
You did put it there, and let's see. Yeah, I put it. Yeah, I put this already in the public chat. Yeah, definitely.
Make sure that folks know Peoples is PEOPLES, because some folks did, forget the S. www.Peoples Alliance for Justice. We are the People's Alliance for Justice, and we look forward to working with everyone out there. So definitely get in touch with us.
All right, Reverend Shane Harris, you got an open door around here. Coffee Conversations with Greg J. Come on through. Let's talk about it. Anytime you have something to say, we're here for you.
If I come, anytime I'm in LA, I gotta stop and I gotta talk to Greg J. I gotta come over to Greg J's place. Definitely.
Yeah, as you should, right? And like I said, man, as we started the show, I'm always happy to include people on that are from San Diego. This has always been, if you come from our town and you see, brothers and sisters, especially in my generation, San Diego was a lot larger than it was when I was a kid. But when we see people coming from our neighborhood, and now we're grown, we're doing stuff. It's actually pretty doggone phenomenal when you just go, dang, little old me from San Diego, is just really, really something that I'm so exceedingly proud of you, Reverend Harris. And like I said, I just found out yesterday, man, and I didn't know. I don't know why I didn't know, but I didn't know that, you come from Bethel Baptist Church, and that's where I born and raised, my brother.
Yeah.
That's it. So good stuff, man. Well, blessings to you, and everybody. You know what we say: love one another. Love one another.
That's right.
Love one another. Peace and blessings.